Louisa, thank you so much for inviting me. This is a wonderful way to celebrate together under extraordinary circumstances. If we start with Hanukkah and the menorah, the Chanukiah, we shine light in the winter solstice. So light in darkness, and light always wins. And so it's a real tribute to Louisa to bring us all together. Just as a point of information, let me just get one thing here. As a point of information, basically I had met Louisa December 2014 when I was launching Breaking Matzo. So I'll talk about that. Anyway, today what I want to start off with is I want to share for me what my earliest memory of Passover is. And if you can see me, I'm holding a whisk. And so the whisk was really something that my brothers would always kind of argue and fight over because my mom made the most delicious chocolate matzo mousse cake. And it's really like a chocolate tiramisu. And we would soak the chocolate matzah. The matzah would be in Manischewitz wine, and then the chocolate mousse and layered cake. And with that, we would then get to lick the whisk, which was my mom's leftover chocolate whipped cream that she had made. And it really was such a beautiful memory, and I'm really pleased that we continue to make that each day today, and many people around the world, because it's one of our top recipes. So that's my first moment with Passover. The next thing I'm going to do is a little bit of a magic trick, and I typically do this at my Seder. So I get the youngest at the Seder, and I say, would you please examine the matzah? And they would go through the matzah and say, is this an ordinary piece of matzah? I have my sleeves rolled up so there's no special effects. And then after that, I'd ask them to select the middle piece of matzah. And you can see, I don't know if you voice, can everyone see this as an ordinary piece of matzah? Thumbs up if you can see it, right? Ordinary piece of matzah. And now the magic trick, ready? 1, 2, 3, just like that. It is no longer an ordinary piece of matzah. It is actually an extraordinary piece of matzah. And so the issue is that we call this the Afikoman, and I put this in my bag. This is my Afikoman bag. And at a personal story, I literally have never found the Afikoman in my life, not once. And growing up, my older brother found it every single year, and we used to get silver dollars. And I was kind of dispirited. And later in life, when I went from being a child to an adult, I changed the rules with my kids and family that I give a reward to everyone as a team, celebrated by the leader who found it. So although it could have dispirited me of never finding the Afikoman, I actually found even more. I found the meaning of the Afikoman. And the Afikoman has a very strong connection to the fundamental premise for me of Passover in so many different ways. So first of all, the thing that I always emphasize to my children is I turned an ordinary piece of matzah into an extraordinary piece of matzah. And that transformation, at one level, it's what you need at the end to find them, to finish the meal and reward the kids. At the same time, it's a metaphor. Moses is an ordinary guy turned into an extraordinary guy. And every major patriarch and matriarch, whether it's Miriam and Abraham and Sarah, and throughout Jewish history and human history, Rosa Parks, etc., it is the march to freedom of ourselves within the context of community and the transformation from being ordinary to extraordinary. In the context of the Passover story, the Afikoman is also part about sacrifice. It's the middle, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the past, present, and future. And in order to make a sacrifice, that's what's necessary sometimes to seek our freedom. And when we think about the story of Exodus, it's an incredible story, going from slavery in Egypt to wandering in the wilderness to freedom in the promised land, hooray. And actually the moment when the Afikoman came into the Exodus story was the now Israelites, combination of soon to be of Hebrew slaves and Egyptians, but that's another story. It's a tangent. I love tangents, but we can talk about that another time. They literally were on the way of leaving Mitzrayim. They're in front of the Sea of Reeds. And then on the other side, is the Egyptian army. And then to the north is the Sifun, the false god of the north. So at that moment, they faced three choices: going back to slavery, going to the false god of the north, the Sifun, or seeking freedom in the Sea of Reeds. That's the one they did. They went into the Sea of Reeds and then departed. But the point is, as we look to have our literal and figurative freedom, we need to escape our enslavement of mental attitude and avoid the false god of the north. So the false god of the north is called the Sifun, and that's actually in the Seder rubric where the Afikoman takes place. And so that's the nature of the Afikoman. It's the hidden part of ourselves that we need to identify with. And as the inside of you comes out, that's how we celebrate. Whether it's a flower blossoming or, you know, a person discovering their inner voice. So now I'll give you the third object for me that has tremendous meaning. And that is this is a hand washer. I don't know if you can see this. This is what the children then pass around. So we do the ritual cleaning of our hands. We do 2 cleanses because there was 2 bodies of water that the Israelites crossed over as they went from Mitzrayim, Egypt, to wilderness, and then to the promised land. And we always have 2 gatherings where we have to pass the past, present, and future, from slaves to children of slaves to children of slaves. And that ritual hand washer has literally been in my family since the late 1800s. It's been literally at every family Seder in my family, held by all my family, and it's one of my most treasured items. And this is an example of something ordinary, maybe to you just a tin can, but to me, the idea that every member of my family, for well over 100 years, from Vilna, Lithuania, has been able to celebrate in that way. So then that brings me to this, which is breaking matzah. So I evolved from never finding the Afikoman and fighting with my brothers about whipped cream. And then I discovered for myself, when people talk about their international seders, I used to live in Japan. I'm bilingual in Japanese. My first job was making soy sauce for the prior emperor of Japan. And my first boss is the oldest samurai family in Japan, over 400 years old. Actually helped make kikoman soy sauce kosher. But then that's another story. So we did celebrate Passover in Japan. That developed a lot of meaning as I started to take over for myself. Fast forward to 2014, I had an idea to launch a cookbook, but we started as a website, Breaking Matzah, and I'm eternally indebted to Louisa, who helped me launch Breaking Matzah, which I do to honor my mom, who's in heaven and all around me. But basically, Breaking Matzah is a social media site dedicated to make Jewish home holidays magical, meaningful, and memorable, sharing ideas about food, fun, and philosophy to stimulate the mind, touch the heart, and uplift the soul. So food, I talked about my mom's chocolate matzah mousse cake. A highlight, we have had, up until last week, we had 9 international harosets featuring Chinese with haroset, Indian haroset Jews have been there for over 2,800 years, Italian, Iraqi, Yemenite, Ashkenazi, Spanish, Sephardic, Moroccan, Piedmontese, and I'm proud to announce today we just launched our 10th haroset from Curacao. Not too long ago, I was in Curacao visiting Temple Mikveh Emmanuel. It is the oldest continuously operated synagogue in the Western Hemisphere. It started in 1710. It's sand all over the synagogue. It has the oldest continuously lit menorah in the world. It's been lit every year for over 310 years. And in honor of them, we launched Curacao haroset, which are made of balls, and they're absolutely delicious. We put a little bit of liqueur in them. So that's sort of a highlight of the food. The philosophy, we have spiritual questions designed to connect people's hearts. And then fun, we have a huge amount of fun projects of, make your own, kiddush cups. We have our little dancing matzah man, things like that. And so we want it to be really fun for all generations to be able to celebrate. So what I want to talk about now is how we're dealing with this environment. we literally just launched, and we're sending it out on Friday, virtual Passover. So we've redesigned the entire site, which is focused on Passover, Hanukkah, Sukkot, Shabbat, and we have millions of Jews, Christians, and Muslims all over the world sharing ideas of how to celebrate these biblically based holidays. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and we are on breakingmatzo.com, YouTube, and Twitter. And basically, what we are doing is having virtual Passover every night at 6 o'clock. So you can we'll go on our site and it'll all be listed there in terms of having 6 o'clock to 6:30. We're going to do preparation for the holiday. We'll do our worldwide virtual Passovers. I want to mention an incredible opportunity for a blessing in this tragic journey that we're currently on, but nevertheless need to radically accept. Historically, ever since Moses first celebrated Passover, it's always been intergenerationally celebrated. Potentially during the plagues, it wasn't the Black Plagues. Next week will be one of the few times in human history for Jews to celebrate alone in a social distancing format. So how is that particularly unique? The 4 questions are traditionally the youngest person at the table. Over the past 100 or 1,000 years, the average age of the person singing the 4 questions, probably around 8 or 9 years old. Next week, you'll have people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s singing the 4 questions, because they literally will be the youngest at their table. We're launching a campaign to have everyone upload their own singing of the 4 questions and create a cappella montage of the whole generations, youngest to oldest, all singing that together. So in conclusion, and I know I'm towards the end, I would like to reflect on Dayenu. And Dayenu means enough. And I think it's particularly poignant in this time for us to express daily gratitude and gratitude in the Dayenu context at Passover. I will ask everyone for 10 seconds, silently, unless you have audio and someone wants to share, but we'll decide, to express a moment of gratitude of something today that they have that they're grateful for, and something that they're looking forward to next week, that in spite of the fact that they were not celebrating Passover in the way that we or thousands of years of Jews have celebrated, something that we can look forward to, be grateful for. So if you could just do 10 seconds, a moment of gratitude to experience Dayenu. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I will show, Louisa, we did launch our cookbook, Magical, Meaningful, and Memorable, about all of our celebratory recipes and ideas. And Louisa contributed her delicious kugel, which I'm very grateful for. And so please check out breakingmatzo.com. Please, I'll send out the virtual resources that we have if you want to help people celebrate together in a connected way in a socially distant context. So with that, thank you very much. And Louisa, thank you for rolling the ball and starting Breaking Matzo and giving me one of the greatest gifts of my life.
Thank you, Andy. It's been so fun for me too. So much fun. Thank you, thank you. I mean, I remember sitting with you at this first breakfast and you said, I have an idea. And I said, oh, I can see how that could happen. Okay, call these 3 people and here it is. I'm very proud to have been associated with it.